Welcome to All About CAT, a webinar brought to you by ECE Association on the 26th day of September. This event, during which we'll have three esteemed speakers, Mr. Preetham Kumar from IIM Ahmedabad, Mr. Goldie, also from IIM Ahmedabad, and Mr. Madhusudan of IIM Bangalore. They will share their secrets to cracking CAT and answer questions ranging from preparation plan of action, tips on cracking interviews, to how an MBA can benefit one's career, the opportunities and the life at IIM, and whatever you might be curious to know about. I'd like to thank our esteemed guests for taking time out of their busy schedules and agreeing to be a part of this webinar. EC Association is extremely thrilled and thankful that we got the opportunity to host you. Mr. Preetham, would you like to share your screen, sir? Um, Mr. Preetham Kumar is an alumnus of NIT Warangal's Mechanical Engineering branch. He graduated in 2016 and went on to work as a senior mechanical engineer at Applied Materials until 2020 at different positions. He holds a diploma in system engineering and a certification in program management from Caltech. He went on to crack CAT and land a seat in the most prestigious IIM Ahmedabad for its postgraduate program to be completed in 2022. We are so grateful to have you here, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Lakshmi. So, good evening, everyone. So, I'll get started with the presentation. So, first of all, what is it that takes one to crack CAT? So, it's all about the consistency and discipline in one's preparation. The reason being, CAT is a super easy exam. Although Lakshmi in the initial part of the webinar mentioned that it's quite difficult, but most of us who cracked CAT felt it is quite easy, provided one had been consistent and disciplined with their preparation during the examination. Uh, so next, then you would think is like, what does it take to crack the CAT? But the fact is like, there's no unique strategy, and I'm pretty sure like many of you who have already started preparing for CAT and have come across some of the institutes video regarding around preparation, they would also have mentioned the same. So let's explore why this is so. So first of all, let's think about what a strategy is. Strategy is nothing but a plan that you use to achieve your goal. So the goal is something that will be specific and unique to different individuals. So before thinking even about what the strategy you want to employ, you should think about what your goal is. Now, assuming all of you want to be want to graduate as an MBA after your bachelor's and have after gaining some work experience. So someone may aspire to graduate from top three IIMs or a tier one B school or any B school. But for them, the goal will be different. So the next thing that one needs to do is look for what is the selection criteria for the whatever B school you aspire to join. And then you need to check whether you fulfill all the criteria except for CAT because that is yet to happen. The reason I'm saying this is many of you, when you start preparing for CAT, will eventually join a Facebook group called iQuanta. So there, when I joined iQuanta, it was in January during the time CAT result used to get announced and the calls were given out, and I used to see lot of posts from the aspirants who, despite scoring like 99.8, 99.9 percentile, didn't get even a single call. And like even in CAT 2019, the one that I appeared for, that time we had around 600 percentilers, of which two didn't even get a call from IIM Ahmedabad, and only one converted. So that time, like the when someone has scored that high and then doesn't get a call, so their expectation gets shattered. They feel kind of cheated. So it's better to have that knowledge upfront, because yes, it is a fact that like for IIMs the criteria is not only CAT but also CADS and other like work experience, other thing, and like they're like very stringent about it, and like so that is something that you need to be knowing upfront before you start preparing for it. So hence I write like, if you are not fulfilling the criteria, be realistic, like be realistic about what your what level you are at, and like what is it that is going to take, and accordingly you have to tune your goal. Else you will have like your an expectation mismatch, and that will may upset you in an year when the results are out. So now if you do this exercise, so like there will be three output out of it, like what all exams you have to write. So let us say that you really don't have a good acats, but you want to join a really great business school. So first of all, you have to accept it, like maybe I'm Calcutta is an option, I'm Ahmedabad and Bangalore is closed for you. But then there's an option for that XLRI. That is a really great school. So maybe then you have to write exams like that, which require a different type of preparation than CAT. So that way you will have a list of exams that you need to write. Then also you will have a minimum percentile that you must score for your profile to get selected for the subsequent personal interview. And also by doing this exercise, you will know what to expect, and hence you will not go through the same feelings that the other aspirants who, despite scoring high in CAT, felt. So now we have an objective, a specific objective in mind, that is a particular percentile or score. Another thing that I want to mention here is, like, let's say during your preparation, you are able to achieve whatever your initial objective is. Just don't settle there. Then you select the next higher objective. Let's say your objective was 99 percentile, then try improving yourself and try to aim for 99.5 percentile. If you're already at 99.5 percentile, you try and aim for 100 percentile. Okay, so now the primary objective is set, that is to, let's say, score XYZ percentile in CAT. So next question is, how will you be achieving it? So you ask anyone, most of them will answer you. It's all about the game of the questions you attempt and the accuracy with which you attempt the question, because these two things together result in the score that ultimately results into the percentile. So the way I had started was, like, started baselining myself. So what I did was, I took previous year CAT paper and, like, in the standard examination content, and tried to understand like where I stood. So that was the step two. That is, like, based on whatever the questions I solved and whatever score I was getting, based on that, I tried analyzing my performance. So something like that you can also try. So what we mean by analyzing your performance. So let's think about VARC. So in VARC, around 70% of question will be around reading comprehension. So maybe, like, once you have attempted, you can go back and see like whether you were able to read and understand the passage. If you are able to do it in time, that means you have good reading speed. If not, then you need to improve your reading speed. Were you able to understand the question? This used to occur with me a lot. Like, I used to misunderstand the question and hence end up doing a lot of questions wrong. So maybe, like, you're reading question too fast. Maybe you need to slow down while you're reading the question. So these two things will improve your attempts. Then will come your accuracy, whether you were able to identify the correct answer. So that is something, if you're not able to do, that is because you don't have the conceptual clarity. So that becomes another problem that you need to solve during your prep. And same way, like, another is about how efficiently you are identifying the answer. So there may be, like, if you see these solution given by coaching institutes, so they have been in business for quite long, and hence whatever the way they generally formulate these answers happen to be quite efficient way. So maybe, like, you can compare your method or reasoning of arriving at an answer and compare it with them. So that way you can see like how efficiently you're able to answer these questions. So again, if you are having high efficiency, that means you'll be having higher attempts also. Similarly, for DILR, it's all about understanding the case. Have you been able to understand the case or not? If not, it's probably that because you are not able, have been not exposed to different type of cases that are possible within DILR. So then you should be practicing more and more. Were you able to crack the case? So it's all about, so in DILR, if you see, it's all about lot of informations are there, many of hidden informations are there, and if you're able to organize the data correctly, the answer will like, it will jump out of it. So that is that. And again, it's all about how efficiently were you able to do it, because, like, in starting, when someone starts preparing, maybe they'll find like each caselet will take them around 40 minutes. However, you're supposed to solve at least 2 to 3 uh, caselets in CAT just to cross the cutoff. But over time, the practice and efficiency comes. But, like, yeah, that is something that you need to keep in mind. And again, like in case of DILR, if you are able to solve it correctly, 100% accuracy is guaranteed unless you do silly mistake while marking. Similarly, in case of quantitative analysis, you need to see like whether you are able to understand the question. Do you know the concepts that are required to solve the particular question? Like how efficiently are you able to solve the question? For example, let us say that like let's say three coordinates have been given to you. You can use the formula to arrive at the area of that triangle, or you can just visualize the coordinate and see if you can directly get the answer from that or not. And again, it's all about like you also have to be worried about whether like you are doing it correctly. If not, you need to work on your conceptual clarity, and if you are able to solve it, but while doing it in a hurry, you end up making mistakes, silly mistakes. So that is something also that you can think about. So basically when you do such exercise, so you'll be able to identify what all specific strengths and weaknesses you are having with respect to your preparation. Then it's all about working on it. So here I have specifically said that initially you have to work on your weakness while improving your strengths. So because when you start preparation, you are having time. You are having a time to convert your weaknesses into strengths. So hence you should be giving more time to your weakness, and then you should work on your strength. However, in the during the final part of the preparation, probably like a month before CAT, you cannot convert any of your weakness into your strength, and hence it only makes sense to build your strength as much as possible. So that is what the step 3 here is. So if we now further look at step 3, like how to convert your weakness into your strength. So basically like it's like if we think about writing an exam, so what we'll do, we'll first get the our fundamentals cleared. We'll probably solve the question, then attempt the section mock, and then we'll attempt the full mock. So maybe if you are weak in a particular area, then maybe you would want to give time to reading and understanding the concepts there, solving the questions, see how the author of the book or the coaching material have solved it, compare it with you, and then learn from there and go through it. If you think that a particular section is your strength area, then also it doesn't make sense for you to ignore it. You're supposed to revise at least, because like very quickly you will be forgetting things, because like there are a lot of things that you would be covering over your preparation. So hence it's a good idea to revise things, because like in examination it may occur that there may be one question that you have solved it sometime earlier, but now you're forgetting it, but deep down you know that you are able to solve it, and hence you'll end up spending too much time on that particular question. If on the other hand, if you had revised that concept, you would be easily able to solve it in no time. So that way it's always advisable to constantly revise even your strength areas. And then again, in case of attempting section mocks and full mock, again we go through the same cycle. So once you go through a particular section, you make strengthen it, then again your strengths and weaknesses may change, new strengths may arise, new weaknesses you may observe, then again you have to work on it. So that is the way, it's a cycle that will go on. And coming to the various stages, so like maybe initially you can start with the books and coaching material, so there are a lot of questions there, lot of diverse questions are there, and then when you are confident, you can start taking the mocks. uh, though this process seems to be a sequential, but actually all these things should be happening in tandem. Although different, the time you spend on different part may be different. For example, in initial stage, you should be spending more time in getting your fundamentals clear and solving questions. But that doesn't mean that you should stop attempting any kind of mocks. You should give mock. It's just a exam with no implication, right? So no harm in writing a mock. It gives you some experience about how well you are doing in the pressure situation or within a time constraint situation. So it's better to do that even in your early preparation days. And as your preparation goes further, your probably your fundamentals will get clear. So only your time you'll be spending there is for the revision. Then you'll be spending more and more times in giving mocks and full mock and section mocks. So that is pretty much it about the CAT preparation strategy.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. We will take up the Q&A after the rest of the speakers are done. Will that be fine? Yeah. So the second speaker we have is Mr. Goldie. He is a management consultant at Deloitte India. He too is a graduate from NIT Warangal. Electrical engineering was his branch. Post-graduation, he worked as an engineer at BA Tech Wabag Limited for almost 3 years, following which he managed to crack CAT and earn a seat at IIM Ahmedabad for an MBA. Post the MBA, he started his job at Deloitte. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. If you could please take over.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'll just present my screen. Just a second.
Yeah.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, I can see it now. Yeah.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Preetham is my batchmate, and he did a really good. He brought out all the key important points that are needed in the journey to prepare for CAT and similar examinations that help us get into a B school. So I'll be focusing more on what after CAT, what after cracking that B school you desire, what what entails your journey at a B school, what opportunities you have, and what after it, as in post MBA, what are the various prospects you have on your plate. So starting off with life at a B school. So this image is the B school which we had last year because of the crisis our world faced. This was the B school during the Corona age. I'm pretty sure next year onwards you will have a normal B school, just like the one in this photograph. So the life in the B school is centered around academics. It's focused on a lot of courses in operations, in strategy, in marketing, in public policy, to name a few. Uh, so management is not exactly like it's a social science. So you get subjects in accounting, you get subjects in finance, you get subjects in a wide area of courses which help you, drive a business effectively. So the common approach, which is across B schools, is a case study approach, wherein a real life problem, a business problem which was faced by an industry, maybe a specific, say a company called Siemens or a company called GE. So these business cases, which were in the past, they come out as problem statements, and these are discussed in class extensively. They're debated over, the assumptions are questioned, and then the business a solution to the business problem is arrived at. The best part of B school academics is, like, most B schools have a specialization. So you specialize in, say, data analytics, you specialize in marketing, you specialize in maybe finance. A lot of IIMs don't have a specialization which comes in their, the degree which one gets. But in your second year, you get to choose the courses which you desire. So if you are highly interested in finance, in your second year, you're free to choose courses in finance. You're free to choose courses in strategy, etc. So this is all about ACADS. Coming to the faculty, so you get industry stalwarts, you get individuals who have worked for 15, 20 years in the industry, have key insights, deep insights into specific sectors, and as in they're academic, they're industry stalwarts turned academicians. So you get a rich experience when they teach you in your classroom. They kind of drive the discussions when we are discussing cases. They encourage one to debate, to question each other's each student's way of thinking, the way they are facing the problem, help you see the business problem from various perspectives, so that it builds the right critical thinking skills and the right business skills which one needs when one enters industry after B school. In all, the lecture at a B school is more like an experience than a theory session. It's like a lot of to and fro, a lot of various perspectives coming in. In the next part, coming to the cohort, the students you'll be studying with. So you'll have a diverse batch. Students who have come from engineering, students who have come from medicine, who have done their MBBS, who have done their BBA, who have done who have done their graduation in psychology, etc. So this kind of brings in a very wholesome experience. You have you work with them in study groups. You participate in case competitions together. So this cohort plays an important role as a very integral part of your B school experience. You will have friends who will be fresh graduates, just like who are joining the B school just after college, just after the undergraduate, and there'll be professionals who've worked for 1 to 5 years in private and public sector undertakings. So it's a lot of views, a lot of different minds coming together and having taking this course. This kind of enhances the overall experience, overall 2 years you spend at a B school. Uh, this is all about acads, all about classroom learning. Of course, as in this part of a B school wherein you have fun, you play sports, you play music. So this picture, the right person playing the keyboard is me. I was a part of the music club at NIT Warangal, and I pursued the passion again at Ahmedabad. Moving on to the opportunities which a B school brings when somebody joins an IIM, FMS, etc., is during your coursework you get to work on you do a mandatory internship after your first year, and you get to work on industry projects in your second year. So this gets you hands-on on life projects, life challenges, which are currently being faced by a lot of sectors, a lot of industries, and you get you get to analyze data, you get to do primary research, you get to do secondary research, you get to network with top-notch C-suite industrialists, top-notch professionals who kind of guide you and help you solve these problems. This acts as a platform to take the theory what you learn in the classroom and go ahead and practice it in reality. So you come to know the challenges which one faces, the difference between theory and what entails when somebody goes ahead and tries to solve the business problem in real life. Again, this acts like a stepping stone. If somebody wants to switch, say somebody had a job, somebody was working in manufacturing sector, and somebody then wants to lean towards finance. So they can very well take up internships, take up industry projects in these sectors, such that they build up the profile, so that they open themselves to such opportunities going ahead. A lot of case competitions are, there are a lot of case competitions which come throughout these 2 years at a B school, wherein you create a group which have 4 to 5 members. You work together to solve. It's similar to industry projects, but these are at a corporate level. These are official competitions wherein you compete with teams across across India. You compete with teams across different countries. So in this way, you get to see the best of ideas coming onto the dais, and a lot of it's an enriching experience in terms of testing your metal at a benchmarking yourself against the rest. This really helps to build your problem solving and critical thinking skills, because then similar to internships and industry projects, herein you get a liberty to experiment, to be more creative, to there'll be a piece of information which will have very limited information, just a 1-pager or 2-pager, but then you'll have to build a business case, and solve the problem. Of course, a very important part of your B school at the end of your 2 years, student looks forward to a good job, something which he desires, in a role which he desires, in an industry that he desires. So a range of opportunities open up after your MBA, which include consulting as in management consulting, product management, marketing, finance, operations, supply chain, etc. So these opportunities are fast track. As in, once you enter the industry, you will be working at C-1, C-2, as in one level below the C-suite, one level below, 2 levels below the C-suite. You'll be directly reporting, and the assignments you work on, the projects you work on during your on your job, these will be highly impactful and producing an overarching impact over the entire company, the entire firm. This also acts as a easy segue into a different industry altogether. So if you were working in a very technical role, if you were a developer, and then you want to grow up and become a product manager, so a B school can act as a catalyst, as a stepping stone to go ahead and become a product manager really fast in your career. a common question which comes in as in I'm doing engineering right now. I had chosen this as my career path because I had a few set of goals in mind. As in, I was good at math, I was good at science. Um, I did really well at JE. I did really well at engineering exams, etc. So why should I go ahead and join a B school? So I would say, as in, uh, you should examine, you should introspect and check what makes you tick. And now you might not be aware, or you might say that I need to work for a year or two to know exactly where I stand. So it's completely fine. It's not a hard and fast rule that you should go ahead and crack all the exams right after your undergraduate. So take your time. I personally would suggest having 1 year or 2 years of experience to know your sector, know at least one firm, company in a moderate amount of detail, so that you kind of understand the business concept that are taught at a B school. So when you who are in this for the degree you'll be getting is an undergraduate degree, so you can go ahead and pursue an MTech in the same domain in a course which you like. Maybe the subjects you study at engineering are technical skills. These are derived from sciences, and they lead you to prospects in roles such as engineer, be a developer, etc. So this is a limited view, of course. It's debatable. There's a lot of roles which open up now for engineering schools as well, but I would say the decision of doing an MBA or not after engineering should be taken after thorough research, because a lot of misconceptions lie of what MBAs do after completing their MBA, after completing their B school. So do your thorough research on what you want to do, what makes you tick, and that will resolve the query that should I go for an MBA or should I go ahead and do a technical in a desired role, a desired job in a desired role in a good company. So an MBA is a postgraduate degree, and you will be learning courses in economics, you will be learning courses in finance, operations, public policy. There are courses, the wide variety of courses. You will learn niche subjects like semiotics, which is like a very extreme, a subject which is used to judge creatives, which are used in marketing. So you have a lot of array of courses which you get to learn as a part of your B school experience. Of course, an MBA can act like a catalyst, as I said before, to switch lanes, to say that this role which I'm at, I think I should move out, and maybe I need to have a really fast track career. I need to grow really, really fast in my career, and MBA can be a way, a catalyst to that. So that's all from my end. You can scan this QR, or you can just type in my name in LinkedIn and connect with me in case of any queries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. That was a great presentation. We will take up the Q&A for sir post the third speaker as well. Mr. Madhusudan is our third speaker. He is a graduate from IIT Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, where he pursued metallurgical engineering. On its completion in 2017, he worked as an engineer at Vedanta Limited for 2 years. Soon, he managed to crack CAT and earn a seat in the prestigious IIM Bangalore for an MBA, which he will be completing in 2022. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us this evening, sir. Please do address the attendees.
Yeah, thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you for inviting me to have a speak with friends. So good evening, friends. First of all, I would like to thank again Pritam for sharing the hardest part of in getting into MBA, that is preparation for CAT. And I would also like to thank Goldie for sharing about life at IIM. My talk is also again almost on the same lines with Goldie. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Madhu.
Yeah. So I just want to give a precursor about life at IIM. As as even Goldie has mentioned about it. But don't think as a pitch for IIMB, because I will be biased towards the experience at IIMB since I am at in Bangalore. So let's get started. So I'll be discussing about these things in my talk. So IIMB is again a prestigious institution of the Holy Trinity, what you call like ABC, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Calcutta. So it's established in 1973, and I know you can search about this in the Google, these things. So what differentiates? You can talk about not just IIMB. You can also talk about all the other IIMs on behalf of MB. So it gives the holistic development for the individual, not just because it has a great faculty. It also has got the cohort, like as Goldie mentioned, it has a cohort of freshers with no experience and people with 5 to 6 years of experience. In my batch, again, there are two persons with almost like 7 to 8 years of experience. So that kind of diversity and will give you a kind of differentiated learning, which you don't get, I think, in at least in engineering. So it gives you that kind of holistic development at the individual level, and there will be light balance of academics and extracurriculars. And there is also a student exchange program with schools from with the different B schools around the world. So this kind of makes you like, you know, you can even develop not just you develop not just at the front of academics, but also you get to know about the culture of different uh, countries, and because you just get to involve with people from different kind of countries. So as I mentioned, what you get from the academics front in IIM, will be getting a fully, the infrastructure is at top-notch level, not just with the classrooms. You will get to know world-class libraries where you can access online resources from different kind of publishers, the kind of books you can use it for case competitions with your friends when you do it in the campus, and you will have a lot of facilities which which you are continued doing in engineering, like music, sports, and the sports are also will be of top-notch level. So these are all things like which make you feel that okay, the engineering life is still there, in the even in the MBA thing. So what does a typical day in the career in the life of an IIM student will be like? In the mornings we'll be having breakfast. After the breakfast we'll be having some lectures, and even in the afternoons we'll be having lectures, lectures. But the most of the thing life happens in the night, where you'll be having discussions with your friends regarding about academics and about various topics about it will be topics can be ranging from your normal day-to-day things to things about astrology or something which you'll be having your own opinions on, or about campus works, or about case competitions, everything like club activities. Even I'll be talking about some clubs which you can explore when you get into IIMs. So, the thing is in IIMs, the schedule is your own, because no one will be force you to do these things. You just need to carry. You just need to do some things which are expected from you at the front of academics. After that, it's up to you whether you want to participate in extracurricular activities or not. So it's up to you. Like this thing. So now let's briefly talk about what's in the academics front. So, just take the IIMB thing, and most of the times in IIMs or in some premier B schools, it will be of 6 terms. You'll be having summer internship after the third term, that is after the first year. You'll be having an exchange program to an international B school. Uh, so the evaluation part, I will leave it, because though it is an hard part, but you have to give these things in order to sail the MBA thing. So there is a theory of the right mix of theory and practice. So you'll be getting a rigorous curriculum in this 2 years, but we'll be having a good experience with the practice also, because you'll be getting live projects, case competitions, and guest lectures and interactions with very renowned industry practitioners and experts of your chosen field. Like if you want to do a project in marketing or consulting, you'll be getting this kind of projects from the respected clubs or from the institute. Or from the alumni network which you will be having once you join the college. So the pedagogy as in the premier B schools, it will be more of lectures and cases, because with the lectures it kind of things like it's a monotony, and if you have some kind of cases, it will validate what you are learning for the topic. And the cases will be internationally acclaimed from Harvard or MIT, that kind of thing. And the faculty, as I mentioned, it will be very world-class faculty because they'll be speaking at some world-class renowned institutes, Harvard, Wharton, INSEAD, all these things. So you'll be getting to learn from these esteemed professors and renowned faculty. So that kind of an opportunity is unmatched with I think with other B schools, if you once get into the premier B schools. So the life part at IIMB is IIMB or another IIM is about the student bodies where you can able to carry your own interests. The interest can be in the core domains like consulting, marketing, finance, all these things, and you can also have your own niche activities with your hobbies like quizzing, music, sports. So everything will have your own club. You can go join the club, or if you have a certain number of individuals, you can make your own club. So it's kind of feels like like what you have in engineering, like what we had in engineering. So you can able to continue that kind of activities or hobbies with the form of a club. You can conduct competitions. You can organize any events with the help of external entities or organizations. So it kind of makes you feel that okay, there is apart from academics, there is also some things which you can be able to practice for your hobbies. And yeah. So as I said, the international exposure, like in term 5, like in second year, term 5, you'll be having exchange program with any foreign B school. So they'll be coming to your campus and you'll be visiting them. So that kind of thing will enrich you, like cross-cultural experience with them. You can get the international exposure when you talk with them. So these are the common schools. Like you can go to Singapore, Dubai, France. Most of the people go for Europe. Thing. So and other prominent part of getting into an IIM or any premier B school is about the alumni network, because there will be such an esteemed alumni network. When there is a you can not just contact them for job opportunities. You can able to talk them once you invite them for any events or something. You can kind of build that kind of network where that there are these people behind my back. When there is such an incident or situation where these people can back me, because you have such a premier alumni network. So this kind of people, Ashwath Damodaran is one alumni of IIM Bangalore, who is a famous professor at Stern School of Business, New York University, is famous for valuation. So there are a lot of people, not only from IIM, there are people from IIM, Cs, and XLRIs who are in their prominent, who are having, who are at the helm of their career in most of the organizations or professors as universities. So these kind of people will back you once you get into that kind of college. So events and life, this is the very much fun part of IIM. So these pictures are pre-COVID, and I hope that at least this part of year we'll be transitioning into that part where we will be able to enjoy that kind of life where our senior batches has had. So we'll be able to organize festivals of different things, and we'll be able to participate in various sports festivals, intra-IIM, or other B school fairs. So that's fun part. And there will be some business, business fairs and cultural fairs, just like we have in engineering. There will be entrepreneurship summits, business summits, and the cultural fest is one very much awaited, at least in IIM Bangalore. So like this gives you the holistic picture that you should play hard and you should play fair, and everything is like you should take with a pinch of salt, and just focus on your CAT preparation. This is the rosy picture what we have shown you, like in the life at IIM. So just hold your horses and prepare well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So we have a set of questions prepared for our speakers today. So whoever wants to answer these questions, please do come forward and answer them. As for the audience, I request you to take note of their answers. And should you have any more doubts in addition to those, please do post them in the Q&A section so that we can pick them up later and have them answered. I hope that's clear. We'll be moving to the first question. Sir, do you have any recommendations for some good books and online resources and mock papers?
Preetham, I think you're the right person.
Sure. Uh, so, if you're starting your preparation at this stage, I think you can get started with Arun Sharma. So, Arun Sharma, all the three books for quants, DILR, and verbal. So you can read them like like the concept. They will give you a lot of conceptual clarity, and then you can also enroll into the distance learning program for various coaching centers. So like I for myself joined the IMS, the one with IMS. So there also their study material was good, and also there were some web resources that were made available to IMS students. So that was good. And apart from that, then there's this Facebook group called iQuanta. So that also you can think of joining. So although a lot of unnecessary posts are there, but like a lot of good questions are also that get posted by student who want to get their doubts cleared. So maybe you can also give those things a try at this stage. So maybe for starter, you can go ahead with these three things.
Okay, next question, Varun. So what would be the ideal time to start preparing for CAT? And since engineering is so strenuous already, how do we manage our time?
So there's nothing like best time to start preparing. It's like first of all, like for you, you guys are still in colleges, right? So if you're targeting top B schools, so you would require some work experience. So maybe at this stage you can start looking into it. But yeah, I think 6 to 7 months of preparation is sufficient. But again, there are a lot of exceptions also. One of my friend, he didn't study much about CAT. Like for him, his work schedule was quite hectic, and yet he was able to crack CAT 2018 and got himself into IIM Calcutta. So there are exceptions also like that. Again, CAT is not that difficult. Like you don't have that big syllabus that we used to have during the JE and AIEEE days. So it should be pretty much manageable, like 1 to 2 hours a day, 6 to 7 months before exam should be sufficient. But it's all about writing mocks, analyzing where you're missing things, and then improving on it.
Okay, sir, thank you. The next question would be, how and when did you decide that MBA is the best path forward for you? And there's one more question in the Q&A section where Lakshmi asked, is it more advisable for going for an MBA right after BTech or after gaining experience? This is a question that most of our audience might be having, especially post placements. So what would your suggestion be?
So, how and when did, like, I'll say share a personal experience. Each one would have a different reason, different motivation to pursue MBA. So, just right after NIT Warangal, after graduating in electrical, I joined VTech work, wherein I was working on design calculations on for transformers, cables, etc. for a water treatment plant. So I somehow found out that my career progression is limited to the tenure of a project. So infrastructure project is usually 2 to 3 years, and somehow I felt that my growth is not as fast as I wanted it to be. So getting into a B school was a way to maybe fasten that thing and maybe switch lanes to a different domain altogether. So yeah, so I decided to study for MBA, to study for CAT when I was 2 years into my work experience, and that's when I started studying for CAT. Answering the second question, so after a B school, you do an MBA, there are a lot of roles that open up, and each role might have a different requirement in terms of experience. So there's consulting, there's general management roles, which kind of expect that you have 2 to 3 years of experience. Then there are roles such as marketing, which kind of have a soft preference for freshers. like students who have just come out of undergraduate and entered a B school. So do your research, reach out to people on LinkedIn, reach out to people in your network. You can reach out to us, the ones in the panel, to know more as in when to choose an MBA. But my personal recommendation would be that 2 years of MBA is good to grasp on the concepts that you learn in a B school. So with that growth aspect and that learning aspect, 2 years is what I would recommend. Preetam and Madhu, if you want to add on.
Also, adding to that, first of all, like before, when to start preparing for MBA, first of all, be sure that if you want to do an MBA or not. So yes, Goldie mentioned that it can fast track your career and all those things. But if you see like these days, especially in circuit branch jobs related to circuit branch, the opportunities are quite great. So even if you think it from the salary perspective, I think more or less from the grads of from NITs and IITs in software stream, they are getting a salary at par or even better than the MBAs. So if so that is one way of looking. Another thing is like, is it really your passion? So that is something that you need to be 100% sure of, because like when we joined MBA, so okay, like so lot of us after like 3 or 4 months after going through that rigor, so many of us started again doubting like were we good in engineering only, or like have we made a mistake or not, like that. So that is something. So please talk to your seniors who went to pursue MS and who went to pursue MBA. Ask for their experience and then think. Then try to contemplate what fits you the best. MBA is not the, like we cannot say that MBA is the best choice to move your career forward. That would be a wrong statement to say. So be very sure that you want to do MBA and then only get into it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a great answer. Moving on, how much impact does BTech result and projects have on selection chances in IIM? So many people might be struggling with lower CGPAs, and how do they overcome that?
So yeah, Preetam, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Goldie.
I'll be short. So each B school has a set criteria for for the BTech CGPA, which you take into consideration for the initial shortlist, and they have a different criteria for the final list as well. So like both are different criteria. One is for shortlisting for an interview, and another being for getting the final admit to the B school. So do have a check at these. What is the weightage? It is different for all the IIMs as well. Like it's different for IIM Ahmedabad, it's different for IIM Bangalore, it's different for IIM Calcutta. Apart from that, say if you have a low CGPA, then you will have to work on the other sections, on the other parts of the criteria. Maybe you can leverage it with your work experience, or maybe having a better percentile, etc. So there are ways in which you can compensate if you have a low CGPA. Preetam, if you take it forward.
Yeah. So like a low CGPA again, like only up to a particular point it is accepted, right? Like you cannot expect a 6-pointer gem to get a call from IIM Ahmedabad despite scoring 100 percentile. So that is something that you need to be very clear about. So it's up to a point, like BTech results, the impact of BTech result is that it will influence whether you get a call or not. Coming to the project work part, so it becomes a great talking point. So if you have done something really interesting in your project, the BTech project, so that can become a talking point during your interview. And like often when you get through the first milestone, that is cracking the CAT and getting the call, then when you start preparing for the interview, then you'll be told that many a time it depends on the candidate to steer where the interview goes. And if someone has done a really interesting project work, maybe through that they can impress the panel. So that is how the project work may influence. But like as far as the comparing it with respect to the criteria, I think only what matters is the BTech result for some IIMs. I guess IIM Calcutta still doesn't give that much weightage for them. Anyone and everyone above 60% in BTech is at the equal ground.
Okay, so thank you so much. Moving on. This is already a question that you answered. So the next question, please. Yeah, reputed B schools other than IIMs, and are they still better than getting a job?
Yes, there are B schools. We have ISB, we have there's XLRI, there's FMS. There are a set of institutions under Symbiosis. There are set of institutions under the Xavier's umbrella. So these B schools do have opportunities as good as IIMs. So a lot of these B schools have opportunities better than few of the new IIMs as well. So be sure, as in set your targets high enough, I would say, so that like if you set for the moon, you might land up in the stars. Similar to that, set a target high enough so that uh, I'm sure you will be getting into a good B school if you prepare well. Madhu, Preetham, if you want to add anything.
As mentioned by Goldie, yeah, there are some B schools where you'll get some job, but I feel that after the MBA, it's about like you might be able to land in a better job if you are doing some, IIMs or some premier B schools. But after 2 to 3 years of job, I think it's again as what you get in the job experience, whether you can able to assess your industry or your field very well apart from the others, that sets you apart. So yeah, for the initial start, you might be having these B schools as a base. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's an
Uh,
excellent point that Madhusudan has raised here. Uh, so it's like if you go to any good B school, you're definitely going to get a good job. There is no denying that. But I think like what IIM gives you, and this is something that when we joined IIM Ahmedabad and we had this alumni meet, there one of the alumni told us, what IIM tag basically gives you is option to do what you want to do. So if you want to do something, you fail at it, you can come back and say, hey, I want to try that other thing, and you will be given that option. So that is the only thing that IIM gives you extra compared to other B schools.
yeah, thank you all for your answer. And the next question would be uh, a comparison between pursuing MBA in India and abroad. This is something that many people might be considering, especially after they get work experience. What are your takes on this?
An MBA abroad would require to have at least 3 to 5 years of experience, and they would want you to progress in your whatever sector you choose. So an MBA in India is more comparable to an MIM outside India. So uh, of course there are executive programs as well. So be sure, as in if you're planning of an MBA abroad, then the best choice is to go for a desired role in a desired industry, and have a good career in that for at least 3 to 5 years. Have at least one level of promotion, 2 levels of promotions, and build a good profile, which kind of acts like a catapult to a premier MBA college, to a premier B school outside India. So yeah, of course, if you're planning to go to Harvard, if you're planning to go to MIT, then you'll have to work extra hard because it's a different game altogether. It's not like an exam. It's not similar to what we follow. It's we have GMAT instead of CAT. And you have set of essays you write to enter these schools. You need to have a really strong profile, and they don't have set parameters like IIMs do. They don't have like X percentage for your undergraduate, Y percentage for. So that part is not explicit. It's all implicit, and you'll have to speak. You're on a network well, connect with your seniors who are studying in those B schools that you desire to go, and maybe you can plan.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. Does my engineering branch have any importance if I want to go for non-tech jobs after an MBA? Right now, many people are straying away from their core engineering branches, and I guess this is a very commonly asked question. Your opinions on this?
Uh, your engineering branch won't affect your prospects after an MBA, I would say. As in, there'll be a minimal, say 1%, 2% chance that it might affect, but overall it's a 0% effect. Uh, like if somebody's eyeing for a role in product management, this is like an exception. So this is like an exception. We have other roles in consulting, we have other roles in operations, marketing, etc. But if you're eyeing for a job in product management, and if you have an experience in being a developer or in handling code, that acts like a benefit to you. It of course does not qualify you to be a product manager, but of course, uh, from the rest of the crowd, you'll be getting a preference for those roles. Apart from product management, I'm not aware of any other roles which come to a B school for placements, which if your branch would affect. It's just like if you're an engineer, you're an engineer there. You're seen as an engineer. Your branch would not affect your prospects after MBA.
Does anyone else have anything to add to that? If not, we'll be moving on to the Q&A section. The audience may start asking their questions. The first one is, I've heard that IIM Ahmedabad predominantly case study based approach, and IIM Bangalore has a more theory textbook based approach. Which is better? Could all the speakers please share their perspectives on this?
Interesting question.
So now you are putting us in a situation where we want to fight or what?
Yes.
The thing is, like now, IIM Bangalore is also having most of the kind of optional subjects where it is more being into case-based thing. But as compared to IMA, yeah, there is theory and practice. So I cannot compare the both because both has its own advantages and there is some kind of shortcomings also because if you have theory, you'll be getting to know about the topics very front and you can go to the case, you can able to learn from the case. But if you are having a case first, if you don't have the basics of the case, you might be in a situation where you'll be in the middle of the sea. But I feel that yeah, case based approach is more advantageous than the theory and practice based approach as we are following. But I'll be I'll be differing from the methodology of pedagogy of IIMB, but yeah, I support IIMB in this.
So one of our professor at IIM Ahmedabad, so he used to say like we used to crib about that like we should be having some exposure to the theory aspect before we jump into the case because we are not able to understand like what is the problem first of all. Like in case when you get a case, so it's more like a story that is happening. You are not told about the hidden problems that is something that you are supposed to explore by analyzing the data by applying the theoretical framework, but in absence of knowing that, you're not able to effectively analyze the case. So what our professor actually told us is that they have delegated that theoretical reading to us. So it's before every class we used to have this pre-assigned reading. So there used to be cases, the chapter from book which we are supposed to study, and also theoretical aspect is something that Ahmedabad trusted student to cover on their own, and it's the lecture, the analysis of the case that is left to the classroom session. So that is what actually happens in Ahmedabad.
Adding to that, business problems in real life do not come in set boundaries, as in they're not operations problems, they're not finance problems. There are holistic problems which like traverse various departments, various sectors. So a case-based, form of pedagogy kind of helps you to have that holistic thinking, to see the problem from different perspectives. And yeah, as in, I would I would do a +1 for case-based. Yeah.
So the next question is, how can a GEM build his profile to get into the top 3 IIMs immediately after BTech without prior work experience?
Well, there are GEMs, fresher gems in IIM Ahmedabad, but like if you see their profile, so there were like branch toppers, all like 999 in all the three 99.9 percentile sort of CAT score. So that is a kind of profile that gets admitted to IIM Ahmedabad right after BTech. Because like if you see the criteria, so if you go to IIM Ahmedabad website, so there's a very simple criteria, like there are sections, they have been assigned weightage and their score given based on where a particular student stands. And when you compare that with the threshold at which the calls were given or the students who were admitted, so from there when you back calculate, you sort of get that like you need to have a very strong profile to be a fresher and get into IIM Ahmedabad. We have freshers from NITs also who are here in IIM Ahmedabad. So it is possible, but like you need to have an exceptional profile there.
Is there any way, they like, what would you say would be the most ideal thing in addition to the, highest percentile CAT scores? Like, what can they do now so that they can compensate for the lack of work experience?
No, I don't think that, no, because work experience is one thing which you need to gain after going job. You cannot do that in engineering. You cannot just
Yeah,
gain
true.
topics and all this. But yeah, I think one good aspect thing with freshers is that they don't have that kind of experience, which kind of makes it forms a rigidity in your mind. Like if you have 2 years of experience or 3 years of experience, you'll be able to think in that field. But the people who are coming fresh from the engineering, they'll be having that kind of thinking where they will be looking in a different perspective, which kind of helps us. Helps us. I kind of had a very good experience with my cohort in IIM Bangalore who had fresher with no experience. So everyone has their own strengths. You just need to explore it from the others if you want to grow. So that's what makes the B school very special.
Yes, sir. Makes sense. So the next question is from Himanshu, and he says, what is the lowest CGPA for IIM A, B, C realistically? Like, what is the lowest CGPA that they would potentially accept?
I think the cutoff CGPA which they mention in first shortlist, that's the one thing. Because we too don't know what are the CGPAs of our batch. No. Once you get into IIM, so you don't ask your friend like what is your CGPA BTech. So
in case of
that's
Bangalore,
the
it is
thing.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case
In
of
case of
Bangalore,
Bangalore,
I
it is
can say
difficult
that
because yeah,
in case of Bangalore
they do
because
normalization there, right?
they normalize and if you see most of from what I know from our batch is like they mostly stress on our academics also. So if you have a very a decent CGPA, you might sail through IIMB, but IIMA and I don't know how they.
I think you can quickly go like for example, I'm in case of Ahmedabad and Calcutta. So like the criteria is very straightforward. Like if you have let's say 10th percentage above this point, you'll be getting this much score. 12th percentage about this point, you'll get this much score. And based on that, like you try to compute whatever is your composite score, and then just compare that with the threshold. So like IIM Ahmedabad, they publish for last batch, what was the threshold score at which the last AWTPI calls were sent? What was the threshold score at which the last student got admitted? So maybe from there you can get that sort of comparison, because like we cannot really say like if you want a safer one, so it will be like 999, but it need not be true. Like someone, let's say having 9 like 90 plus percentage in 10th and 12th, and let's say 100 percentile in CAT, maybe at even at 80 to 83 percentage in bachelors also can get an admit or get a call. So that is something. It's all about that number game. So you need to see what all combination fits you.
Got it. What are the courses offered by IIMs for entrepreneurship and innovation? Raghu Amshi wants to know. In IIM Ahmedabad as well as Bangalore, if you could please answer that.
In case of Bangalore, like there is a core course, like you have to do the compulsory course in entrepreneurship. It's called as entrepreneurship and mindset and action. So it's a compulsory course in term 3, like the first year term 3. So I think it is made compulsory, and after that we'll be having entrepreneurship. There are a lot of courses in optionals only for entrepreneurship, like 3 to 4 courses. I think it's still in a development stage. You have to entrepreneurship is one thing, because entrepreneurship is one thing. They don't have set of rules. No, you cannot prepare a course just just for the sake of entrepreneurship, it's most of like diverse learnings from the speakers and real life experiences of entrepreneurs in our core course. So they are making a course like two to three courses at least in IIM Bangalore because we don't have predefined conditions for entrepreneurship. So making a core course out of is one big hectic task. But the professors are still on the way to make 3 to 4 courses out of that. I think Pritham can add from IMBA perspective.
Yeah, unlike Bangalore, we don't have any compulsory course on entrepreneurship, but we do have like 4 or 5 courses that are offered as part of elective that the student can take.
All right. So the next question is, why do so many IIM grads go on to do a second MBA outside of India? Is a second MBA required to go global?
I'm not sure we are the right person to address that particular question.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and
Yeah, yeah.
just to add on, as in the double MBA bit, it's like one in a lot, in a big lot. It's like maybe Indira Nooyi out of all the Indian CEOs, which yes, Satya Nadella is not a double MBA. Sundar Pichai is not a double MBA, but Indira Nooyi was a double MBA. So it differs.
The facts are wrong. The lot of MBAs going into double MBA. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. So moving on, is gaining work experience in any particular industry more advantageous over the other industries? For example, analytics or product management, consulting, since they're more aligned towards business, would that be better than doing any other work?
No, if you have that kind of experience in those industries, maybe the recruiters might be willing to take you once you get into MBA schools. But apart from that, I don't feel that because there are a lot of my friends who did metallurgy and they went into consulting, nowhere related. But yeah, having that kind of exposure kind of gives you an advantage in shortlists. But I think they don't differentiate on that levels whether you have experience or not in that kind of industries.
Yeah. And coming to like if we think it from let's say the admission perspective. So first one role that work experience is going to play is in your composite score. And another part is that interview. So in case of interview, I feel it may actually go against you because the people who will be interviewing you would be master of that particular stream. So it may become very difficult for you to impress the interviewer. But in case you have experienced some other stream, so like mostly their questions will be limited to the generic question, even though like even there also like they may ask some deep questions, but like likelihood of you impressing the interviewer there and hence scoring a higher score in the interview component may be high if you are from a non-business work stream. That I feel. I may be wrong.
I think, oh, so one second, I'll just.
I'll just take a minute going back to the question, which was about entrepreneurship at IME.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there you can search for CIIE IIM Ahmedabad. So in which you get an opportunity to intern at a startup. It's not a course. It's an opportunity to start your own venture. So during your first year, between your first year and second year, you can intern at a startup which is getting incubated at CIIE, which is the Center of Innovation and Incubation. The Capital Incubation Insights. It's an entrepreneurship cell at IIM Ahmedabad. Also, after your second year, if you have an idea and you want to work on it, the incubation center will support you in terms of they'll give you a stipend, a regular stipend, a monthly stipend, and will provide you the resources which are needed to incubate your startup. So yeah, like for entrepreneurship, these are the tools available at your disposal when you study at IMA.
If I can add to Goldie, like just on the lines of IIM Ahmedabad, there is a NSR cell where it is a center for entrepreneurship learning in IIM Bangalore. It kind of not only gives this thing to the students, but even people from outside, if they have startup ideas, they can be incubated in the NSR cell, and you can have on the same lines with IMA. You can get to internship there with the startups, or if you have a startup idea, you can go and pitch in there. So you can contact NSR cell IIM Bangalore. I'll just put it in the chat.
All right, so we have one more question. Are non-circuit engineering people preferred for tech PM roles at IIMs? Non-circuitry branch.
Yes, yes, as in non-circuit engineers also enter into product management at IIMs. But of course, like you'll have to overcompensate with your preparations when it comes to knowing what product management entails, what are the different aspects of product management. So you'll have to, digest the fact that the techies will have an edge, but you'll have to then compensate with your other aspects of product management. So
All right.
that's all.
Yeah. So the next question is, does brand value of the company we work in while gaining work experience have any weightage in the decision of getting an admit in any of the B schools, may it be India or abroad? So if a person works at Microsoft, is it more advantageous over any other company?
As far as my experience has been, no. The answer is no for at least for IIMs. I'm not sure. I cannot answer for B schools outside of India. But what majorly affects your candidature at a B school is the diversity you bring to the table. So the more unusual, the more unconventional stream you're coming from, that kind of improve your chances of like getting that admit.
Yeah, got it. The next question is it tougher for freshers to get into consulting companies like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain as compared to people with prior work experience?
Short answer is no. No, because it again dwells into your profile. But consulting people know they kind of looks into your profile. So if they find your profile is matched, and the consult have their own way of evaluating student profiles for their jobs. So there is no such kind of thing like the freshers will be at the negative thing, or the experienced people will have positive this thing. But the short answer is no. There will be no such kind of thing differentiating.
Okay. So one more question is, can major projects help slightly compensate for the lack of work experience? Major projects.
The projects, yeah, go ahead.
So the project can only compensate during the interview part. The thing is like the work experience point or the academics point and all those things, they are like just the numbers that are fed into the system, and based on that the composite score is being calculated. The only then variable that remains is your interview score. An interview score, if you have an interview, if you have you can talk about some of the major project that is able to impress the interviewer, then you may end up getting a little bit higher interview score, and hence in that way it can compensate. But like there's no way you can mention that okay, this particular project I did, it was a major project, and then that is something they take into account while computing your composite score.
All right. I think that answers all the questions okay, fine. 1 second. We have 2 more questions. Yeah. The first one is, how many people get jobs in front-end investment banking roles from all IIMs? Front-end investment banking roles.
Honestly, I don't know what is the meaning of that. Sorry.
Okay, fine. Does anyone else have any idea, or should we move on?
You need to be passionate about investment banking, and also if you have some experience, then likelihood of you getting a shortlist for investment banking role is higher, because like in case of IIM Ahmedabad, mostly the shortlist go to the chartered accountants or people who have some experience, or their CV somehow shows an inclination towards finance, and then it's all about the buddy calls and all that happen, and that ultimately gets converted into an offer.
Okay. And do we need a finance background or finance related undergraduate degree to get IB jobs?
Not required. For example, one of my friend, he is a mechanical engineer from IIT Madras. He worked at Goldman Sachs in market, and here when he came to Ahmedabad, he worked on. He got into the finance club, worked towards getting an IB role, and he is now an investment banker.
Oh, that's great.
There are courses, just to add on, there are
Yeah, yeah.
courses one can pursue CFA levels to kind of amp up their profile in terms of finance. There are other courses as well one can do apart from CFA, FRMs, etc., to leverage their build up the CV for a finance role.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point that Goldie has raised. So if like at this point, like when you are still in college, and if you aspire to be an investment banker, I think it's right time you start preparing for CFA as well, because like that works as a great signal to the banks about your interest in finance.
All right. So one question is, do 2 or 6 month long full time internships count as work experience?
No. No.
Okay. All right.
Just curious, Madhu, are you place com? Where are you place com?
No. I'm not a place for.
Acha, okay. I was just curious. Thanks.
It doesn't count, no? The internship experiences are, at least maybe for freshers, they can show it in the CV, but for experienced people, they need to be working in an organization. That's it.
It depends on colleges, I guess. Yeah, like I think IIM Ahmedabad and Calcutta both specify that like that work experience has to be at least more than 11 months to get counted.
Yeah, that's what. If you work in an organization itself, then it's fine. Not in an internship kind of.
Oh, internship, it doesn't count as work ex. That's specifically that's specified upfront.
Okay, so when companies come into the college with 6 month internships plus final year role, after graduation role, so that's not counted, like not even the 6 month with an organization.
No, that's an
No.
internship.
All
It has
right.
to be full-time work.
Okay, understood. Yeah. So thank you so much. I guess that's the end of our questions. Thank you so much for your engagement and agreeing to mentor the students from NIT Warangal. It was very informative, and I hope the attendees now have a passion to crack CAT. We are also grateful to the audience once again for participating so enthusiastically. We hope you have gained insights into CAT prep and the different aspects of the MBA program and the boundless opportunities post completion. Once again, I would like to thank our amazing speakers for this great talk. This was very interactive and really nice of you to attend. And I hope everyone has a great day. The session has ended now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so
you.
much.
All the best.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.